Hi, everybody. This is Dave Lavigne with Trickle Research. Kind of started up. Some of you have seen some of our videos in the past. We sort of went on hiatus during the summer because everybody was anxious to get out of their house because they could. So I think everybody wasn't sitting in front of their computer anymore. But now that the leaves are falling, we decided we'd kind of put a few more of these on there. So today is October 7th, 2021. We have with us today Neil Veloshin. Neil is the CFO of Cavitation Technologies, which is one of our coverage stocks. Also with us today is Gregg Fulfer. Gregg is the owner of a company called Delaware Water. Delaware Water is Cavitation's partner in a company called Enviro Watertek, which is operating in the Permian basin. And as some of you who read the research and have maybe seen some of the other videos with Neil and I, Cavitation is working through Enviro Watertek with Delaware Water to create some water solutions in the Permian basin to treat produced water from fracking and then essentially create a closed loop where they can take that water then in turn and refrac wells with it. I believe it's a huge opportunity, especially for a small company like Cavitation. And hopefully today we can maybe get Gregg to give you a little bit of a sense of what's going on in the Permian Basin and maybe how some of this may impact Cavitation going forward. But like I say, just to give you a little bit of a better idea of what we think is maybe the opportunity. So Neil, I'm going to let you introduce Gregg, and then I'll do my usual thing where I interrupt people and ask them questions along the way, and we'll see if we can do something kind of constructive here. So
sounds good.
The floor is yours.
Well, let me make a short introduction. Of course, I'm Neil Veloshin. I'm Chief Operating Officer and Chief Financial Officer of Cavitation Technologies. Glad to be on the call with you, Dave, and our partner and good friend, Gregg Fulfer, is on the call with us as well. Some people probably have heard, when I make presentations, even at your conference, I do discuss our joint ventures with Enviro Watertek, but I'll give like a very brief history and then allow Gregg to discuss or describe more on our business opportunities where we're involved. About 2018, 2019, Gregg and our company, Cavitation Technologies, we've met. As a matter of fact, Gregg flew us down to see his facility because we were a bit skeptical because we had too many people calling in and making all sorts of promises. I guess Gregg was very convincing to say, guys, it's going to be worth your time. So we did go out there, and Gregg was very humble. As a matter of fact, he just took us to his house. We met his wife. It was just great, and we just started from there. So he showed us his facilities, his operations, and that's how our dialogue started. Then we did some testing, and we figured out that Delaware Water LLC and Cavitation Technologies, we've decided to create a company or joint venture, Enviro Watertek. And our primary objective through this joint venture is to really implement the technology, the infrastructure, the know-how that Gregg has to really treat water, in fracking or produced water in the Permian Basin. That was our first get-go, and like anything else in life, you go through ups and downs. 2020 was really tough year because of COVID. A lot of things were shut down, but I guess we passed through that. Industry starting to open up, and we are coming online as well. So we do feel both of our companies are in our JV, that we feel that opportunity is just huge for us to implement our technology. I think the infrastructure is in place, and we can do a lot of things in this particular space. And Gregg will elaborate a bit more again on the opportunity and the technology, because he is on the ground. He's boots on the ground in the area, and that's what he's done for many years. So that's a short introduction. That's how we went in. We're delighted. We've been working with Gregg for the last several years. Gregg, I guess a mid introduction. Now it's yours.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks, Dave, for having me on. I'm going to kind of leave it up to Dave to point me in a direction here of what he wants to hear, but just a little history of Delaware Water we created it back when the big fracking came on to the Permian Basin. We've had fracking since the early or late 20s in our area in the Permian Basin, but nothing like these big fracks that they're doing today that requires a lot of water. Some of these horizontals require 1 million barrels to 1.6 million barrels per frac. So they require a lot of water in a dry area, and the fresh water is precious in our area, and it's getting harder and harder to come by. So recycling this produced water is becoming the top thing to do for the oil companies, and especially in preservation of our freshwater drinking water. So I've been following this technology. I was on the county commission in Lee County for 10 years, but when I first got on there was a Department of Energy grant for $1.5 million for the county to figure out what to do with produced water and find a commercial use for it. And so we took that grant back 15 years ago and started studying this produced water. And that's how I got into it, was through the county, and we used New Mexico Tech University to bring their researchers in, and we experimented for several years on how to clean up produced water. And that was my first introduction, and it held my interest from then on. So through that time, I've studied at least 27, 30 different companies that claimed they had a way of cleaning it up. Out of those, I've never seen one feasible, but it held to me, and learned a lot through it. And we come up with a multi-process of how to clean recycling water. Our system that we come up, there was lots of things that I was looking for. I wanted to be reduced free. I wanted the waste stream to be able to handle. We wanted to reuse 100% of the water. We wanted to clean that waste that we had, that our haul off was very little compared to most other people out there trying. So we reduced our trucks. But one of the big things that we were looking for is, how do we adapt a system to the ever-changing produced water? Especially as we were working out of a disposal area where you'd have different trucks bringing different quality of water. And so you were constantly trying to clean up different quality of water. And through that, so that our process needed to be adaptable on the fly. It needed to be able to process this different qualities of water coming in. And so that's our system. We built a system that handles it up front, the different qualities, pre-treats it, then it runs through our reactor to clean the water. And so it's chemical free, adaptable, uses very little waste stream, and uses very little labor. And so I think we're way ahead of the competition out there with the system that we have.
So, Gregg, can you describe a little bit where you're at with the system and the process right now? I mean, I know you had some delays, obviously. So COVID kind of bit a year out of this thing, which it kind of did everywhere. But so you kind of got the Permian Basin sort of started coming back online as oil prices improved. Now I'm assuming they're probably drilling as fast as they can. So you got the system kind of back in place, and now you're laying some new pipeline to increase the capacity of the system. But one of the things that I think is really important to understand here, because I get this question a lot, I think everybody's saying, well, if you have this great solution, why aren't you telling the world about it? And I think that your position, if I understand it right, has been, look, there have been so many companies that have tried to solve this problem and failed, that the industry is a little bit tired of hearing these new iterations. And so I think your position sort of strategically has been to take the capacity that you have a customer that you are currently deploying this capacity into, but basically you want to take that capacity and get it in place, make sure it works the way it's supposed to, and make sure that it's very reliable and consistent and works on a day-to-day basis without having to be, you know, tweaked here and changed there. And once you get that in place and it's producing at some sort of scale, and let's call that, you know, 30,000 barrels a day or whatever it is, then you're willing to go bring other people, other industry people, potential customers there to see it and make it work. And that's my understanding of the strategy. That makes a lot of sense to me, but maybe you can just elaborate on that and maybe correct me where I'm wrong. So.
No, you're right on. The COVID really shut down the oil industry. And that's right when we were ready to really bloom and take off. And so it kind of put a dent in us. COVID really hurt us on right in the time period that we were ready to run. And so we do have a company that we're selling to. Our unit, we have 2 units online that make about 8,000 barrels a day per unit, and we're running 2 of them parallel. And so we have about 16,000 barrel a day capacity. We're restricted by our pipeline. We have like 4-inch poly lines running right now, and we have those maxed out with even a booster pump in line. So we're in the process of laying a larger pipeline that we feel like we can get up to 40,000 barrels a day down that line. And the big thing that it's going to let us do is kick on our first mobile unit and show it in operation. So we built a mobile unit that's about 3 40-foot sea containers. It's the footprint of it. And we can pop that in on a location and sit there and do about 20,000 barrels a day per each unit. And so we will have that in operation along with our stationary units. And so this pipeline allows us to really kick all that on. And we'll be able to show it all in operation. We'll be able to show the results. And the company we have right now is really happy with the quality of the water. We've met all their specs. And so we're excited about that. We've got the next mobile unit about ready to roll out and be ready for the customer to give us a call and tell us where they want it. And,
so Gregg, if, excuse me here. So thinking in terms of timeframes then, you know, and I'm not looking for something exact, but I mean, if we sort of take the notion that the first goal here is to get this operational so that obviously you can generate revenues from it, but also then to use it as a sort of beta to show other companies, yes, we can do this. Can you give us some sense of when you feel like you might have that fully operational to where you're comfortable to maybe bring in new customers and have them look at it and say, you know, this is what we do?
We should be the second week of November. We should be in full operation and have our stationary unit and our mobile units running along with our new pipeline system. So we're installing our pipeline system now. We've got a lot of moving parts to it, but we're hoping to have it completed second week of November and be in full operation with our mobile unit and our stationary units.
Great. Well, okay. So if that's sort of phase 1, so the other thing that I'm kind of wondering is, you know, when I think about the potential opportunity here, I mean, if you look at industry numbers, I mean, the Permian, when it was really up and running, and I'm assuming if the energy price is sort of holding here, it's gonna start, you know, getting back to some semblance of old levels at least. And I know that some of the data from past production pre-COVID, I mean, the number of barrels of produced water that the basin was creating was, you know, millions and millions of barrels. So I'm trying to reference that a little bit in terms of your opportunity. And I mean, can you give us some sense of maybe what you're looking at in terms of the opportunity? I mean, is there enough water in your mind to be produced that you could clean, you know, instead of 1 million barrels a month, 2 million barrels or 5 million or 10 million barrels? Is the opportunity that big?
It is very large. I mean, the disposal that the companies are having to dispose of is far exceeds what they're using to frack with, and so the frack demand though is far exceeding what even the freshwater supplies are, and that kind of holds them up as they go in the fracking. So as we develop this, the regulatory environment is pushing to get away from freshwater. Freshwater is getting harder to find. And so this recycling of water is going to be in the future the only way to go. And so environmentally and trying to be environmentally friendly, the oil companies want to go that way. And it's a huge market. We're talking up in the billions of barrels of water used. And so as we figure this out and create a consistent and a very quality water for them to use, I think it's a no-brainer to go this way for the oil companies. And their big problem right now is finding a consistent source of water, of recycled water. And once they find that, and I think it's something we'll be able to provide on a consistent quality basis.
So, and just to clarify a little bit, you know, I know I get a lot of questions about the difference between sort of the stationary unit and the mobile units. And I know that you started out with the stationary, and that seems to be, I think some of the infrastructure issues you're addressing now, bigger pipelines and some of those things, seem to be a little bit more related to kind of that stationary unit. But can you just give us a sense of how maybe you'll use a portable unit? You probably use more portable units in the future, how you sort of can put those on site and how that may eliminate some of the infrastructure issues you're dealing with right now, if I understand that.
Well, our stationary unit is very unique. That we have a huge saltwater gathering system coming into our stationary unit. There's probably 150 miles of gathering pipeline that's gathering from all different oil companies and coming into a disposal system that comes right back into where our plant is. And we have a large, about 1 million barrel pond holding facility for this saltwater disposal before they put it in the ground and dispose of it. So we've got a unique stationary system that we can pull out of that pond thousands and thousands of barrels of water before it ever goes into the disposal. And that's kind of what we're wanting with this portable system. We want to be able to go and install it right on a location where an oil company gathers their disposal water, and we can put it in place right there, take their disposal water, clean it up, and then send it over to their frack ponds, wherever they use a frack pond. Sometimes they'll build a 1 million barrel pond that may feed 5 or 6, 10, 15 different fracks and out of that one pond. And we can just plop our system, our recycle unit right into in between their saltwater disposal system and their frack system. And instead of them selling that off to a saltwater disposal company, we can take it, recycle it, and reuse it right into their frack system, saving them disposal money, along with providing them good cost frack water.
So I know you don't like to talk about this, and so I'm not gonna get too deep into the weeds with this issue. But I think, and you can comment on this to the degree you do or don't want to, but is it fair to say that at least you believe that when you start treating water, that, well, you may not want to tell us what you can do that for. Is it fair to say that you can do it, you think, a lot more inexpensively than sort of the status quo or the existing technology right now, or the existing processes anyway?
Well, our system is very low cost of recycling. So we can be competitive with about anybody out there. But as long as we're taking their disposal water, instead of them sending it and paying for disposal, we can clean that up for probably at what they're being charged for disposal, and maybe even less for what they're paying to dispose of that water. So it's an offset cost to the producer that basically, if you look at it in that term, it doesn't cost them anything hardly.
So, okay, that's great. Let me sort of think one step further. The system right now is able to take produced water and upgrade it to a point where it can meet specifications to be used as frack water. And just to edify, and you can expand on this a little bit if you feel like you should. One of the big issues with that, I think, is bacteria, cleaning bacteria out of which believe it or not, when bacteria goes back down the hole, if it does go back down the hole, it eats piping, and it's really, really destructive. I'm not sure people really realize that, but certainly one of the things you're trying to clean from the produced water is that. But it sounds to me, as in previous discussions, we've talked a little bit about you being able maybe to take that your cleaned produced water, maybe put it through another desal step, and actually end up with a water that could be used for ag purposes and some of those things, just under the notion that I know that the state of Texas and the state of New Mexico have these ongoing fights about who owes who water. And I'm just wondering if that next step is something that's viable and maybe is sort of the next piece of this puzzle, I guess.
Well, we're real close to that. We're not there yet, but we're real close to that point of one thing about our system, it does clean out the bacteria, the scale, the iron and different things. It cleans it up well enough that it's feasible, makes desal feasible to use. And so we're looking into that next step that we can do that. I think it's not that far off, maybe even within the next year that we'll see that. But our system, one thing that it does, it's cleaning the water up well enough that desal is a huge possibility that will happen feasibly. And one of the things with desal is always your contaminants that you feed it. You get such a high rejection, maybe 70–80% rejected water on a desal unit. And I think with our system, we can increase that desal way up there in efficiency. And so I think our process makes desal very feasible.
So would that be potentially a much bigger opportunity even than just addressing this frack to just produced water to frack water system?
Well, it is. I think it's a lot larger opportunity than we are even in recycling water for fracking, because it solves the number one problem with oil and gas is disposal. You're hearing so much about earthquakes, especially in Oklahoma. You're starting to hear it a little bit in the Delaware basin area, that you're hearing about earthquakes. And so saltwater disposal wells are becoming an issue. Our system could solve that problem, that we create one of the largest disposals ever made, because we can clean that water up and reuse it in agriculture or other issues of state water right issues and things like that. We can solve a lot of those problems, and we'll have to work with the New Mexico Environment Department and the Environment Department in Texas to solve those problems, to be able to put our water out like that. But I think we're very close to getting to that point.
So this sounds pretty, sounds like a lot of things are just sort of starting to gel. I mean, you feel like if it sounds to me like, Greg, if we sit down and have one of these calls, even, I don't know, 90 or 120 days from now, there's going to be a lot more to talk about in terms of the system and how it works, and maybe potential new customers. I mean, feels like you're on the sort of the precipice of this thing really getting bigger.
We are. We're right there. We're right at the edge of really opening this up to become one of the biggest, recycling systems available. I think chemicals dominated all the others in recycling, and this system does away with that. You always, anytime you add a chemical, you have to adjust for that. This, you don't have to adjust for it. And so there's so many things that make this system fit in and more usable and fits in better with the frack.
Well, listen, Neil, do you have anything else you'd like to add? I mean, this has been really, really helpful. I appreciate you guys spending your time today. And like I say, I kind of hope we can do this maybe in a couple, 2 or 3 months. And I feel like we may even learn more by that time. So Neil, anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I think we've covered quite a few things today. Again, from operational perspective, what we're doing, and both companies and our JV. So we are really moving forward, probably the fastest, or as permissible, because it we deal with it every day. I mean, there's supply chain, there are opportunities that come around, and we're moving it again at the fastest speed possible. As Gregg mentioned, that we believe that we're coming online at much greater capacity first, second week of November. Opportunities are there. I think the industry is expanding again. And I think price of oil is helping us, same as price of gas. So I guess from company's perspective, I think we find it is a very unique, great opportunity, both from, again, monetarily, also from perspective that we are a green technology. I think we are doing a lot of things on a clean tech and environmentally friendly solutions that we're offering to the industry that are sometimes perceived as being polluting polluting the world. I mean, or let's say the areas. I think we're providing, like I said, not only economic solution but also environmentally clean solution to the industry. And I think it really makes us proud of what we do. Both we do as a JV with Enviro Watertek. Gregg's been a terrific partner, and Dave, thanks for having us on the call today.
Well, fellas, I appreciate it. Let's like I say, see how things roll out here. Maybe we'll do another one of these in 2 or 3 months to see where we're at. But in the meantime, I really appreciate your time. This has been really constructive, and thanks very much. And we'll circle back and try to see if we can do this again at some point. Gregg,
Beautiful.
Neil, thanks a lot.
All right.
You.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thanks, fellas.
Bye-bye.